Hey, hello, how are you? Welcome along to part 10 of our read along of bing, 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 The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. You know that I'm reading the Wordsworth edition, so tonight we're starting halfway through a chapter, aren't we? I can't remember what number it is. Halfway through chapter 5, and we're starting on, in my edition, page 96. And it's going to be a longie tonight because this is a big old chapter. It goes from 96, I think, to 117 or something. Strap in because here we go. If you remember from the other night, Mole and Rat were just walking away from the wildwood. They'd gone through that village, coming out the other side, and Mole could smell something familiar, couldn't he? Do you remember? That's where we'll pick it up from. I just had a power cut here literally between recording that last bit and this bit. So if I suddenly go quiet, my microphone is on at the moment, but if I suddenly go quiet, that's all it is. There's nothing your end, it's on my end. Here we go. Home. That was what they meant, those caressing appeals, those soft touches wafted through the air, those invisible little hands pulling and tugging all one way. Why, it must be close by him right at this moment, his old home that he'd hurriedly forsaken. We've read this bit. And never saw again, that day when he first found the river. And now it was sending out its scouts and its messengers to capture him and bring him in. Since his escape on that bright morning, he had hardly given it a thought. So absorbed had he been in his new life, in all its pleasures, its surprises, its fresh and captivating experiences. Now, with a rush of old memories, how clearly it stood up before him in the darkness. Shabby indeed, and small and poorly furnished, and yet his, the home he had made for himself, the home he had been so happy to get back to after a day's work, and the home he had been happy with him. Did this the other day, didn't I? And the home had been happy with him too, and evidently was missing him and wanted him back, and was telling him so through his nose, sorrowfully, reproachfully, but with no bitterness or anger, only with a plaintive reminder that it was there and wanted him. The call was clear, the summons was plain. He must obey it instantly and go. "Ratty!" he called, full of joyful excitement. "Hold on! Come back! I want you quick!" "Oh, come along, Mole, do! Please stop, Ratty," pleaded the Mole in anguish of heart. "You don't understand. It's my home, my old home. I've just come across the smell of it, and it's close by here, really quite close, and I must go to it. I must. Oh, come back, Ratty. Please, please come back." The Rat was by this time very far ahead, far too far to hear clearly what the Mole was calling, too far to catch the sharp note of painful appeal in his voice, and he was much taken up with the weather, for he too could smell something suspiciously like approaching snow. "Mole, we mustn't stop now, really," he called back. "We'll come for it tomorrow, whatever it is you've found, but I daren't stop now, it's late, and the snow's coming on again, and I'm not sure of the way, and I want your nose, Mole, so come on quick, there's a good fellow." The Rat pressed forward on his way without waiting for an answer. Poor Mole stood alone in the road, his heart torn asunder, and a big sob gathering somewhere low down inside him, to leap up to the surface presently, he knew, in passionate escape. But even under such a test as this, his loyalty to his friend stood firm. Excuse me. Never for a moment did he dream of abandoning him. Meanwhile, the wafts from his old home pleaded, whispered, conjured, and finally claimed him imperiously. He dared not tarry longer within their magic circle. With a wrench that tore his very heartstrings, he set his face down the road and followed submissively in the track of the Rat, while faint, thin little smells, still dogging his retreating nose, reproached him for his new friendship and callous forgetfulness. With an effort, he caught up the unsuspecting Rat, who began chattering cheerfully about what they would do when they got back, and how jolly a fire of logs in the parlour would be, and what a supper he meant to eat, never noticing his companion's silence and distressful state of mind. At last, however, when they'd gone some considerable way further and were passing some tree stumps at the edge of a copse that bordered the road, he stopped and said kindly, Look here, Mole, old fellow. You seem dead tired. No talk left in you, and your feet dragging like lead. We'll sit down here for a minute and rest. The snow has held off far, and the best part of our journey is over. The mole subsided forlornly on a tree stump and tried to control himself, for he felt it surely coming. The sob he had fought with so long refused to be beaten. Up and up it forced its way to the air, and then another and another and others, thick and fast, till poor Mole at last gave up the struggle and cried freely and helplessly and openly, now that he knew it was all over and he had lost what he could hardly be said to have found. The rat, astonished and dismayed at the violence of Mole's paroxysm of grief, did not dare to speak for a while. At last he said very quietly and sympathetically, What is it, old fellow? Whatever can be the matter? Tell us your trouble and let me see what I can do. Poor Mole found it difficult to get any words out between the upheavals of his chest, and followed one upon another so quickly, and held back speech and choked as it came. I know it's a shabby, dingy little place, he sobbed forth at last brokenly, not like your cosy quarters, or Toad's beautiful hall, or Badger's great house, but it was my own little home, and I was fond of it, and I went away and forgot all about it, and then I smelt it suddenly on the road when I called, and you wouldn't listen, Rat, and everything came back to me with a rush, and I wanted it, oh dear, and when you wouldn't turn back, Ratty, and I had to leave it, though I was smelling it all the time, I thought my heart would break. We might have just gone and had one look at it, Ratty. Only one look, it was so close by, but you wouldn't turn back, Ratty. You wouldn't turn back. Oh dear, oh dear. Recollection brought fresh waves of sorrow, and sobs again took full charge of him, preventing further speech. The rat stared straight in front of him, saying nothing, only patting Mole gently on the shoulder. After a time he muttered gloomily, I see it all now. What a pig I have been. A pig, that's me, just a pig. A plain pig. He waited till Mole's sobs became gradually less stormy and more rhythmical. He waited till at last sniffs were frequent and sobs only intermittent. Then he rose from his seat and, remarking carelessly, Well, now we'd really better be getting on, old chap. Set off up the road again, over the toilsome way they'd come. Wherever are you going to, Ratty? Cried the tearful Mole, looking up in alarm. We're going to find that home of yours, old fellow, replied the rat pleasantly. So, you better come along, for it'll take some finding, and we shall want your nose. Oh, come back, Ratty, do, cried the Mole, getting up and hurrying after him. It's no good, I tell you. It's too late and too dark, and the place is too far off, and the snow is coming, and I never meant to let you know I was feeling that way about it. It was all an accident and a mistake. And think of Riverbank and your supper. Oh, hang Riverbank and supper too, said the rat heartily. I tell you, I'm going to find this place now, if I stay out all night. So cheer up, old chap, and take my arm. We'll very soon be back there again. Still snuffling, pleading, and reluctant, Mole suffered himself to be dragged back along the road by his imperious companion, who, by a flow of cheerful talk and anecdote, endeavoured to beguile his spirits back and make the weary way seem shorter. When at last it seemed to Rat that they must be nearing that part of the road where Mole had been held up, he said, Now, no more talking. Business. Use your nose and give your mind to it. They moved on in silence for some little way. Then suddenly the rat was conscious, though through his arm that was linked in Mole's, of a faint sort of electric thrill that was passing down the animal's body. Instantly he disengaged himself, fell back a pace, and waited, all attention. The signals were coming through. Mole stood a moment rigid, while his uplifted nose, quivering slightly, felt the air. Then a short, quick run forward, a fault, a check, a try back, then a slow, steady, confident advance. The rat, much excited, kept close to his heels as the Mole, with something in the air of a sleepwalker, crossed a dry ditch, scrambled through a hedge, and nosed his way over a field open and trackless and bare to the faint starlight. Suddenly, without giving warning, he dived, but the rat was on the alert and promptly followed him down the tunnel to which his unerring nose had faithfully led him. It was close and airless, and the earthy smell was strong, and it seemed a long time to Rat ere the passage ended, and he could stand erect and stretch and shake himself. The mole struck a match, and by its light the rat saw that they were standing in an open space, neatly swept and sanded underfoot. Directly facing them was Mole's little front door, with Mole End painted in Gothic lettering over the bell pull at the side. Mole reached down a lantern from a nail on the wall and lit it, and the rat, looking around, saw that they were in a sort of forecourt. A garden seat stood on one side of the door, and on the other a roller, for the mole, who was a tidy animal when at home, could not stand having the ground kicked up by other animals into little runs that ended in earth heaps. On the walls hung wire baskets with ferns in them, alternating with brackets carrying plaster statuary, Garibaldi, and the infant Samuel, and Queen Victoria, and other heroes of modern Italy. Down one side of the forecourt ran a skittle alley, with benches along it and little wooden tables marked with rings that hinted at beer mugs. In the middle was a small round pond containing goldfish and surrounded by a cockleshell border. Out of the centre of the pond rose a fanciful erection clothed in more cockleshells and topped by a large silvered glass ball that reflected everything all wrong and had a very pleasing effect. Mole's face beamed at the sight of all these objects so dear to him, and he hurried Rat through the door, lit a lamp in the hall, and took one glance round his old home. He saw the dust lying thick on everything, saw the cheerless, deserted look of the long-neglected house, and its narrow, meagre dimensions, its worn and shabby contents, and collapsed again on a hall chair, his nose in his paws. "Oh, Ratty, why ever did I do it? Why did I bring you to this poor cold little place on a night like this, when you might have been at Riverbank by this time, toasting your toes before a blazing fire, with all your own nice things about you?" The rat paid no heed to this doleful self-reproaches. He was running here and there, opening doors, inspecting rooms and cupboards, and lighting lamps with candles and sticking them up everywhere. "What a capital little house this is," he called out cheerily. "So compact, so well planned. Everything here and everything in its place. We'll make a jolly night of it. The first thing we want is a good fire. I'll see to that. I always know where to find things. So, this is the parlour. Splendid. Your own idea, those little sleeping banks in the wall. Capital. Now, I'll fetch the wood and the coals. You get a duster. Mole, you'll find one in the drawer in the kitchen table, and try and smarten things up a bit. Bustle about, old chap." Encouraged by his inspiriting companion, the mole roused himself and dusted and polished with energy and heartiness, while the rat, running to and fro with armfuls of fuel, soon had a cheerful blaze roaring up the chimney. He hailed to the mole to come and warm himself, but Mole promptly had another fit of the blues, dropping down on a couch in dark despair and burying his face in his duster. "Rat, how about your supper, you poor cold, hungry, weary animal? I've nothing to give you. Nothing. Not a crumb." "What a fellow you are for giving in," said the rat reproachfully. "Why, only just now I saw a sardine opener on the kitchen dresser quite distinctly, and everybody knows that means there are sardines about somewhere in the neighbourhood. Rouse yourself, pull yourself together, and come with me and forage." They went and foraged accordingly, hunting through every cupboard and turning out every drawer. The result was not so very depressing after all, though of course it might have been better: a tin of sardines, a box of Captain's biscuits nearly full, and a German sausage encased in silver paper. "Oh, there's a banquet for you," observed the rat as he rearranged the table. "I know some animals who would give their ears to be sitting down to supper with us tonight." "No bread," groaned the mole dolorously. "No butter, no pâté de foie gras, no champagne," continued the rat. "And that reminds me, what's that little door at the end of your passage? Your cellar, of course. Every luxury in this house. Now you just wait a minute." The rat made for the cellar door, and presently reappeared, somewhat dusty, with a bottle of beer in each paw and another under each arm. "Self-indulgent beggar you seem to be, Mole. Deny yourself nothing. This is really the jolliest little place I ever was in. Now, wherever did you pick up those prints? Make the place look so home-like they do. No wonder you're so fond of it, Mole. Tell us all about it and how you came to make it what it is." Then, while the rat busied himself fetching plates and knives and forks and mustard, which he mixed in an egg cup, the mole, his bosom still heaving with the stress of his recent emotion, related, somewhat shyly at first, but with more freedom as he warmed to this subject, how this was planned, and how that was thought out, and how this was got through, a windfall from an aunt, and that was a wonderful find and a bargain, and how this other thing was brought out of laborious savings and a certain amount of going without. His spirits finally quite restored, he must needs go and caress his possessions, and take a lamp and show off their points to his visitor, and expatiate them, quite forgetful of the supper they both so much needed. Rat, who was desperately hungry but strove to conceal it, nodding seriously, examining with a puckered brow, and saying, "Wonderful," and "most remarkable," at intervals when the chance for an observation was given to him. At last the rat succeeded in decoying him to the table, and had just got seriously to work with the sardine opener when sounds were heard from the forecourt without, sounds like the scuffling of small feet in the gravel and a confused murmur of tiny voices, while broken sentences reached them. "Now, all in a line. Hold the lantern up a bit, Tommy. Clear your throats first. No coughing after I say 1, 2, 3. Where's young Bill? Here, come on, do. We're all awaiting." "What's up?" inquired the rat, pausing in his labours. "I think it must be field mice," replied the mole, with a touch of pride in his manner. "They go round carol singing regularly at this time of the year. They're quite an institution in these parts, and they never pass me over. They come to Mole End last of all, and I used to give them hot drinks and supper too sometimes when I could afford it. It will be like old times to hear them again." "Oh, let's go and have a look at them," cried the rat, jumping up and running to the door. It was a pretty sight, and a seasonable one, that met their eyes when they flung the door open. In the forecourt, lit by the dim rays of a horn lantern, some 8 or 10 little field mice stood in a semicircle, red worsted comforters round their throats, their forepaws thrust deep in their pockets, their feet jigging for warmth. With bright, beady eyes, they glanced shyly at each other, sniggering a little, sniffing and applying coat sleeves a good deal. As the door opened, one of the elder ones that carried the lantern was just saying, "Now then, 1, 2, 3. And forthwith their shrill little voices uprose on the air, singing one of the old-time carols that their forefathers composed in fields that were fallow and held by frost, or when snowbound in chimney corners, and handed down to be sung in the miry street to lamp-lit windows at Yule-time. I'm not going to sing this whole Christmas carol. Not for me. Their voices ceased, the singers, bashful but smiling, exchanged sidelong glances, and silence succeeded, but for a moment only. Then, from up above and far away down the tunnel that they had lately travelled, was borne to their ears in a faint musical hum the sound of distant bells ringing a joyful and clangorous appeal. "Very well sung, boys," cried the rat heartily. "And now come along in, all of you, and warm yourselves by the fire, and have something hot." "Yes, come along in, field mice," cried the mole eagerly. "This is quite like old times. Shut the door after you. Pull up that settle to the fire. Now, you just wait a minute while we—" "Oh, Ratty!" he cried in despair, plumping down on a seat with tears impending. "Whatever are we doing? We've got nothing to give them." "Oh, you leave that all to me," said the masterful rat. "Here, you with the lantern, come over this way. I want to talk to you. Now, tell me, are there any shops open at this hour of the night?" "Oh, why, certainly, sir," replied the field mouse respectfully. "At this time of year our shops keep open to all sorts of hours." "Well then, look here," said the rat. "You go off at once, you and your lantern, and you get me—" Here much muttered conversation ensued, and the mole only heard bits of it, such as, "Fresh, mind. No, a pound of it will do. See, you get Buggins's, for I won't have any other. Not only the best. If you can't make it there, try somewhere else. Yes, of course, homemade, no tin stuff." Finally, there was a chink of coin passing from paw to paw. The field mouse was provided with an ample basket for his purchases, and off he hurried, he and his lantern. The rest of the field mice, perched in a row on the settle, their small legs swinging, gave themselves up to the enjoyment of the fire and toasted their chilblains till they tingled, while the mole, failing to draw them into easy conversation, plunged into family history and made each of them recite the names of his numerous brothers who were too young, it appeared, to be allowed to go out a-carolling this year, but looked forward very shortly to winning the parental consent. The rat, meanwhile, was busy examining the label on one of the beer bottles. "I perceive this to be old Burton," he remarked approvingly. "Sensible, Mole. The very thing. Now we should be able to mull some ale. Get the things ready, Mole, while I draw the corks." It didn't take long to prepare the brew and thrust the tin heater well into the red heart of the fire, and soon every field mouse was sipping and coughing and choking, for a little mulled ale goes a long way, and wiping his eyes and laughing and forgetting he'd ever been cold in all of his life. "They act plays too, these fellows," said the mole, explaining to the rat. Make them up all by themselves and act them afterwards, and very well they do it too. They gave us a capital one last year about a field mouse who was captured at sea by Barbary corsair and made to row in a galley, and then when he escaped and got home again, his lady love had gone into a convent. Here, you were in it, I remember. Get up and recite a bit." The field mouse addressed got up on his legs, giggled shyly, looked around the room and remained absolutely tongue-tied. His comrades cheered him on, Mole coaxed and encouraged him, and Rat went so far as to take him by the shoulders and shake him, but nothing could overcome his stage fright. They were all busily engaged on him like watermen applying the Royal Humane Society's regulations to a case of long submersion, when the latch clicked, the door opened, and the field mouse with the lantern reappeared, staggering under the weight of his basket. There was no more talk of play acting once the very real and solid contents of the basket had been tumbled out on the table. Under the generalship of Rat, everybody was set to do something or to fetch something. In a very few minutes, supper was ready, and Mole, as he took the head of the table in a sort of dream, saw a lately barren board set thick with savoury comforts, saw his little friends' faces brighten and beam as they fell to without delay, and then let himself loose, for he was famished indeed, on the provender so magically provided, thinking what a happy homecoming this had turned out after all. As they ate, they talked of old times, and the field mice gave him the local gossip up to date, and answered as well as they could the 100 questions he had to ask them. The rat said little or nothing, only taking care that each guest had what he wanted, and plenty of it, and that Mole had no trouble or anxiety about anything. They clattered off at last, very grateful and showering wishes of the season, with their jacket pockets stuffed with remembrances for the small brothers and sisters at home. When the door had closed on the last of them and the chink of the lanterns had died away, Mole and Rat kicked the fire up, drew their chairs in, brewed themselves a last nightcap of mulled ale, and discussed the events of the long day. At last the Rat, with a tremendous yawn, said, "Mole, old chap, I'm ready to drop. Sleepy is simply not the word. That your own bunk over there on that side? Very well, I'll take this. What a ripping little house this is. Everything's so handy." He clambered into his bunk and rolled himself well up in all the blankets, and slumber gathered him forthwith as a swathe of barley is folded into the arms of the reaping machine. The weary Mole also was glad to turn in without delay, and soon as his head on the pillow in great joy and contentment, but ere he closed his eyes he let them wander around his old room, mellow in the glow of the firelight that played or rested on familiar and friendly things which had long been unconsciously a part of him, and now smilingly received him back without rancour. He was now in just the frame of mind that the tactful Rat had quietly worked to bring about in him. He saw clearly how plain and simple, how narrow even it all was, but clearly, too, how much it all meant to him, and the special value of some such anchorage in one's existence. He did not at all want to abandon the new life and its splendid spaces, to turn his back on sun and air and all they offered him, and creep home and stay there. The upper world was all too strong. It called to him still, even down there, and he knew he must return to the larger stage. But it was good to think he had this to come back to, the place which was all his own, these things which were so glad to see him again and could always be counted upon for that same simple welcome. next chapter, chapter 6, is called Mr. Toad. Boop, boop. There we go then. That was the end of part 10. Hope you're enjoying it. I really am. So today, for me, when I'm recording this, it's Sunday, which means I'm back to work tomorrow. I've been to work for like 3 weeks because I've been, like I said, I was ill just before the holidays, and then of course this week we've been off. So yeah, I think it's going to hit me a bit like a truck tomorrow. Actually, gosh, there we go. So yeah, so I'm back to work tomorrow. What have I been up to today? Oh, I went for back to school haircut today, and he said, "Do you want me to shape your beard?" And I was like, "Yeah, got it." Blimey, he's near taken the whole thing off. And look under here. I never go that high. Gosh, look. Emphasises my jowl. Oh my goodness. So yeah, that's why I've kept my hat on tonight. He went a bit cray. I'm gonna have to see what I can do with that tomorrow. Otherwise I'm gonna wear my hat all day at work, and that wouldn't be a good thing, would it? So yes, I went and did that today. My vacuum broke today. I tried to fix it, but alas, it was too far gone. So yep. Anything else? Nothing else exciting that I can think of. Put a poster up in Floyd's room. No, just the old prep for going back to work. Really, I got back. I went to the sea, didn't I? And I didn't. I said I was going to come back tomorrow, but I didn't. That's because by the time I got back, there was some wrestling on the telly, and long time Mr. S subscribers would know that Mr. S likes wrestling. So Mr. S and Floyd sat and watched the wrestling instead of coming up here. So I'm sorry, but I just did something for me, That's okay once in a while, isn't it? But hey, we are cracking through the old Wind and the Willows. I reckon we'll have this done. Like I said to you originally, I think there's 12 chapters. Did we say? Yeah, 12 chapters, and we're doing like a chapter every 2 days. Excuse me, so I reckon 24, 25 days. That's how long it'll take, as long as I don't have any more days off. And then, so that'll take us to the end, mid-November, and then we'll start Hogfather, ready for that festive feel. So, when I went out in the city, like all of the Christmas time stuff is up already. That's not for Mr. S. No, I'm a December the 20th kind of person. That's when Christmas starts. I know, bah humbug. I know. But again, long-time subscribers of the channel know that Mr. S ain't a Christmas person. All right. Okay. I will see you soon tomorrow. Work tomorrow, so we'll see what time we get home. All right. Love you lots. Bye.